My name is Aloan Kale, and for 6 long months I worked far away on the Bering Sea. My job was very hard and very scary. I was a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. That means when boats got in trouble and huge waves came, I had to jump into the freezing water to save people. The waves were so big they were like giant walls of water. Some were as tall as a 5-story building. The air was so cold it felt like it could freeze your skin. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? When I finally got to come home, it was Christmas Eve, the night families usually get together and feel happy. I was tired from months of loud storms, cold water, strong wind, and rescuing people. I landed at the airport in Spokane at 11:07 p.m. and carried my heavy sea bag off the plane. My arms hurt from all the missions, but I was excited to go home. I went to the rental car place and got the only car left, which was a small SUV. I drove carefully through heavy snow for 40 minutes all the way back to Kootenai, Idaho, where my house was. The snow was thick, coming down like tiny white feathers, and the roads were slippery. But I kept going because I wanted to see my dad and my little sister Silvara. When I turned onto my street, I noticed something strange. My porch light was on, and the front door was open a little bit. I could hear music and laughing coming from inside. Yellow, warm Christmas lights were glowing through the windows. I could even see the shadow of a giant 10-foot Christmas tree inside. I walked up to the house, still wearing my big rescue swimmer boots from Alaska. They were dripping snow on the wooden floor I had paid for myself years ago. I stepped in and saw people everywhere. Aunts, cousins, Dad's old friends, and Silvara's group of influencer friends. It was like a big party. Right in the middle of the room, under the tall Christmas tree, stood Dad and Silvara. They were both smiling like they had practiced this moment. They held fancy glasses of champagne. Dad spoke loudly so everyone could hear. "Welcome home, sweetheart," he said. "You're officially homeless now." Silvara lifted her glass too. Her eyes sparkled in the Christmas lights. "We sold your house last week, sis," she said. "Merry freaking Christmas." The whole room went quiet. Everyone stared at me like I was part of a joke. I let my heavy sea bag drop onto the floor with a loud thud. I brushed the snow off my shoulders and looked at them very slowly. "The house you two just sold," I said in a calm voice that felt sharp like broken ice, "actually belongs to." But I didn't finish the sentence. Because if you have ever been hurt by your own family, especially on the one night that is supposed to be warm and happy, you know how much it hurts. A few weeks before this moment, I had been in Kodiak, Alaska, where it was so cold the wind felt like knives. It was -40 degrees with a wind chill. If you blinked too slowly, your eyelashes would freeze together. I had just finished a 12-hour rescue mission, still salty from the ocean, when I finally got back to my barracks room. I took off my heavy rescue gear and called home on FaceTime because talking to someone helped me feel human again. I felt lonely on the freezing base, so hearing my family was the one warm thing I had. Dad answered the call on the 3rd ring. He was sitting on my couch, the one I bought with the money from my first deployment. Behind him, Silvara was showing off a brand new Hermes Birkin bag. It was a super expensive purse. She held it up and spun it slowly so the camera could see every part of it. "Look what arrived today," she said in a voice that sounded exactly like the videos influencers use when they show off new things. A couple nights after that, Silvara showed off new knee-high boots and a very expensive winter jacket. I knew those things cost more money than I earned in a whole month. Dad sat behind her, sipping coffee, smiling softly. It was the same smile he always used when Silvara asked for something huge when we were kids. "She's trying to grow her channel," Dad said. "These girls need to invest in their image, Aloan. You wouldn't understand." I didn't argue. I just stared at the video until the call ended. Then, one day while I was sitting in the hangar waiting for training to start, I opened Zillow on my phone just for fun. I liked checking how much my house was worth. I had worked very hard for 8 years to pay it off. I typed in my address, not expecting anything strange. But the first thing that popped up was a listing for my own house. There were pictures inside and outside. It said the house was pending, which means somebody was buying it. It said there were backup offers allowed. It had a fancy, freshly painted front door. I felt like my heart stopped beating. The real estate agent was Zevion Crowley, one of Dad's old bowling friends. I called Dad 5 times, but he didn't answer. I texted Silvara, too, and she didn't reply. That night, I sat on my bunk thinking about every moment from the last 6 months. Every time Dad said, "We're fine." Every time he asked for a little money, just for Silvara. Every time I asked what Silvara was doing for work, and he dodged the question. Then I remembered Princess Isolde, a girl from my Coast Guard Saranal who had gone into the JAG legal program. I still had her number. Even though we hadn't talked in years, I sent her the Zillow link and wrote one short message. Can someone with power of attorney sell a service member's house without them knowing while they're on duty? She replied in 30 seconds. Send me the address and the POA details. I'll check tomorrow morning. And Aloan, lock your credit now. I felt my stomach twist in fear. That night, using the bad satellite internet, I spent hours taking screenshots of all the texts where Dad asked for money for Silvara. All the bank transfers are marked family. Every email where I gave him power of attorney before I left for Alaska. I thought he would just pay the bills and keep the house safe. The princess sent the first document at 5 in the morning. It showed something called a home equity line of credit, or HELOC. It was opened in my name, for $140,000. Dad had signed for it using my power of attorney. The money went straight into an account that matched the last numbers of Silvara's debit card. The princess sent another PDF. A contract to sell my house to the Lyra and Kalian Caldwell, Silvara's best friend and her husband. Princess wrote in big capital letters. They can't close, but they are moving fast. That meant the sale wasn't legal, but they were trying to finish it before I found out. I saved all the files in a special folder on my computer and protected it with a password only I knew. After that, the princess kept sending more documents as I worked on the windy flight deck. Each one felt like someone punching me in the stomach. I asked my commanding officer for emergency leave, and it was approved in 6 hours. I packed my things and started my long trip home. I took a plane from Kodiak to Ansoranrage. Then I waited 4 hours. Then a plane to Seattle. Then the last flight of the day to Spokane. I traveled for 21 hours. At the rental counter, the only car left was a silver truck with studded snow tires. I grabbed my sea bag and drove toward home. Snow started falling heavily halfway through the mountains. The change required signs blinked bright red. It was dangerous, but I didn't stop. The lake by my town looked like a dark mirror, shining with Christmas lights from the houses. When I turned onto my street, my heart started beating so fast I could feel it in my throat. All the neighbors had decorations up, lights, reindeer, Santa inflatables. But my house was the brightest. Every single light inside was on. There were wreaths on both garage doors. A 12-foot Christmas tree glowed through the window. I saw people moving inside. I parked 2 houses away, turned off the engine, and sat still. The truck steamed in the cold. The clock said 11:11. I could hear the music from my house. The bass was so strong it made the truck windows shake. I took a deep breath, grabbed my binder full of proof and documents, opened the truck door, and stepped out into the snow. My boots crunched loudly in the quiet night. I walked to the house I had worked 8 years to pay for. I stood on the porch under the light I had installed myself. I looked at the wreath they put where my American flag usually hung. Then I grabbed the doorknob, turned it, and pushed. Warm air and loud music rushed out. The house smelled like pine trees, cinnamon candles, and cheap wine. A huge Christmas tree with gold ribbons filled the room. About 30 people were there, family, Dad's friends, Silvara's influencer group. Everyone held champagne. Dad saw me first. He wore a silly Rudolph sweater. One arm was around Silvara, and he raised his glass like he was the king of the room. "Look who finally showed up," he yelled over the music. "Sorry, kiddo, you're too late. The house isn't yours anymore." Silvara spun around, wearing a glittery dress, and clapped her hands. "We closed yesterday," she said happily. "Cash deal. We're literally partying in your old house right now. Happy holidays." Half the room laughed, like it was the funniest joke in the world. I stood just inside the doorway of the house. Snow was melting off my coat and falling onto the wooden floor I had fixed with my own hands 3 years ago. But I didn't worry about the floor. I didn't even feel cold. My heartbeat stayed slow and steady, the same way it stays steady when I hang on a rope under a helicopter while strong winds push me around. Nothing really scares me anymore. Dad kept talking louder and louder to everyone at the Christmas party. He liked the attention. He liked everyone looking at him. He kept saying the same thing he always said. "Family takes care of family." He said Silvara, my little sister, needed a fresh start. He said she deserved a clean slate. And he said he thought I wouldn't care about anything they were doing because I was always away working, saving people, and being a hero. I finally spoke very quietly. The Christmas music almost covered my voice, but somehow everybody in the room heard me. All the talking stopped at once. "Are you sure about that, Dad?" I asked. Dad laughed loudly like I was telling a joke. He laughed like he thought I was too soft to challenge him. Like he thought I would just let anything slide. I took my phone out slowly, so everyone saw what I was doing. I opened the PDF file that Princess had sent me from the county recorder's office. Then I turned the phone around so all the people at the party could see the highlighted part on the screen. "This is a $140,000 loan," I said calmly. "A loan you put on my house. And you signed it pretending to be my attorney, my lawyer. But the loan is still active. It's still in first position. No title company will let you sell a house with a hidden loan like this. And because I never signed the right papers, you can't close the sale. Not today, not ever." The Christmas music kept playing in the background, but nobody danced anymore. Everyone just froze. Delira and Kalian were sitting on the leather couch I bought when I got my last promotion. Delira was holding a champagne glass, but she dropped it without meaning to. It hit the coffee table and shattered. Kalian's face turned white like the snow outside. Kalian stood up so fast the footstool tipped over. "Corvin," he said to my dad, "you told us the power of attorney made everything legal. You said it was a private sale. You said no bank, no VA loan, no problem." Dad's wine glass fell too. Red wine spread across my rug like a puddle of dark red paint. Silvara's voice cracked like she was about to cry. "This can't be happening," she said. "We already gave Zevion the earnest money. $85,000. And it was non-refundable. There it was. The big secret. The 98-pound rock they hoped I'd never find out about. Zevion Crowley. Dad's bowling friend who pretended to be a real estate expert." I looked straight at Silvara. "You mean Zevion Crowley who lost his real estate license twice? The same Zevion who never does title searches? The Zevion who wrote you a house contract without talking to a bank and without following the rules for VA loans?" Delira started crying again into Kalian's shoulder. One of Dad's poker friends whispered, "Holy crap," and slowly backed toward the hallway like he wanted to escape. I took one more step inside the room. My boots left wet prints on the floor. "Let me make this simple," I said. "You're partying inside a house that still belongs to me. The buyers," I pointed toward Delira and Kalian, "gave $85,000 to a man who can't legally close the sale. And the bank that owns my loan is about to find out someone tried to sell their house without permission." Dad opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I turned my head toward Silvara. "I hope your fresh start was worth it, little sister. Because this is the last Christmas you'll ever spend in my house." The Christmas tree lights kept blinking bright and sharp. The whole room stayed frozen around them. I walked out of the house without looking back, got into my Jeep, and drove to the resort plaza to clear my mind. By 9 a.m. the next day, I sat in a corner booth at Java on Sherman, the coffee shop right by the lake where the ice was starting to break apart into big gray pieces. I had 3 huge binders on the table. They were full of papers, color-tabbed, highlighted, flagged, just like something you'd bring to a court hearing. Delira and Kalian walked in. They looked like they hadn't slept since Christmas Eve. Delira's eyes were puffy and red. Kalian's jaw looked like it had been tight for 2 days. They slid into the booth across from me and stared at the binders. I pushed the first binder toward them. "These are all the papers the county recorder has," I said. "Every wire transfer. Every text between Dad and Zevion about hiding the sale. Every lie." Kalian opened the binder with shaking hands. Delira leaned over, reading the pages upside down. She started crying again as soon as she saw the wire transfer, showing the $85,000 they sent on December 23rd. My voice was calm. Calm like when I teach pilots how to search for missing people. "Idaho Rule 54-20-87, I said, says that someone who helps with an illegal house sale is responsible for the damage. And Rule August 18th, 55 says someone who breaks the rules with a power of attorney is also responsible. If you file today, you'll get your money back. Plus extra. I'll sign anything you need. I'll sit with lawyers. I'll tell everything to the judge." Kalian looked at me with tired eyes. "You would really go after your own father in court?" "He stopped being my father the day he used my service to treat me like free money," I said. "This isn't revenge. This is a cleanup." Delira wiped her face with a napkin. "We already moved half our stuff in. He gave us garage codes. He said the house was ours." I nodded. "Then you can show the court he tricked you. Save every message, every photo, every moving receipt." Kalian pulled out his phone and called their lawyer on speaker. I spent 90 minutes telling the lawyer the whole story step by step. When we finished and stood up to leave, the lawyer was already writing the court papers accusing Dad, Silvara, and Zevion of fraud and breaking real estate laws. I walked toward my Jeep in the parking lot. My phone buzzed. It was Mrs. Maricel. "Eloan," she said. "Your dad is in my driveway. He's been sitting there for an hour." The bank gave him papers demanding he pay everything. And Thalira's lawyer left a voicemail saying they want a lot of money. "Your dad won't leave until he talks to you." I drove 3 blocks to her house, quite the whole way. Dad was still inside his truck. His face looked gray. His hands shook as he held the wet envelope. Mrs. Maricel stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching like she used to watch me as a teenager when I came home late. I walked up to the truck window. Dad rolled it down. His fingers shook. "They're taking everything," he whispered. "The rental house. The tools. Even the mower. I have 30 days to get out." I didn't move. I didn't say a word. He tried to open the truck door, but didn't have the strength. "I didn't know it would get this bad," he said. "I thought I was helping Silvara. I thought you'd understand." I crouched so my eyes met his. "You thought wrong." Tears rolled down his cheeks and froze from the cold. "Please, Eloan," he said softly. "Tell them to stop. I'll sign anything. I'll give you the rental house. I'll give you whatever you want." I stood back up. "You don't have anything left," I said. "I don't want the rental. I don't want an apology. I want nothing." He reached out like he wanted to grab my sleeve. I stepped away. "Don't call me," I said. "Don't come by. Don't send neighbors messages. You made your sorrowness on Christmas Eve. Live with it." I walked back to my Jeep and drove away. Dad stayed slumped in the truck while snow piled on his windshield. He didn't even move to clear it. I went to the new buyer's house and handed them the garage door opener. Then I drove to the county courthouse to record the reconveyance. The clerk stamped the papers at 2:17 p.m. By 2:45, the bank put a special note on Dad's last rental house, saying they wanted to take it too. 2 days later, Dad filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The court took everything. The rental house, the 2014 Silverado truck, the power tools, and even the John Deere mower he loved more than most people. The meeting with the trustee lasted 12 minutes. Dad walked out with just a plastic grocery bag of clothes, a discharge letter, his tiny Social Security check, and an old beat-up Tacoma the court didn't want. Zevion Crowley had his hearing in Boise the next month. I took 2 days off work, drove 5 hours to get there, and sat in the back row. The commission lawyer explained everything Zevion did wrong. No title search, no bank approval, hiding the loan, no VA forms. Zevion said, "I was just helping." His excuse lasted 4 minutes. They took his real estate license away right then. No appeal. No second chance. He walked out the side door while news cameras filmed him. I didn't smile. I just turned around and drove home. Silvara's troubles came slowly. First, the big credit card companies took her to court. $42,000 for one card, $58,000 for another, $61,000, more than her student loan company added $23,000. They all added huge interest and lawyer fees. Someone posted screenshots of her court cases on a gossip page. Her online followers disappeared. She sold her ring light, her fake plants, and her photo backgrounds for almost nothing. I got my keys back on a gray Thursday in March. The house was empty. The heat was off. The pipes were winterized so they wouldn't freeze. I opened the front door and listened to the quiet. The Christmas tree still stood in the corner. Brown needles everywhere. Ornaments broken on the floor like someone had pulled it down in anger. I walked upstairs. The only untouched thing was Mom's curio cabinet. I opened the glass door and took 3 things. A small cedar box with her wedding ring, a photo of us 3 at my chief pinning ceremony, the Coast Guard pin she wore every year. I put them in a padded pouch, closed the cabinet, and left everything else where it was. Then I walked out of the house, locking the door behind me. Friday morning, I met a nice lady named Leora. She was a helper who sold houses for people. She had a license, which meant she was trained and allowed to help with house selling. Mrs. Arredondo, who knew a lot about these things, told me that Leora was the right person to work with. We met at the title company, which is a place where people make sure house papers are correct. We sat down, talked a little, and then signed a big paper that said Leora would help me sell my house for 6 whole months. She would get 3% money from the house price when it sold. We decided to sell the house for a price that was $5,000 less than another house like mine, just so more people would want to buy it. And that worked very fast. Many offers came in even before someone put the lock box on the front door. One offer was especially surprising. It was $7,000 more than the price I was asking for, and they wanted to pay all in cash. That made things very simple. I rinsed the offer that looked the safest and cleanest. It said the house would be fully sold in 30 days. They didn't ask for an inspection, and they didn't need a bank to check the value. They just wanted the house. On the last day of the sale, the weather felt crisp and sunny. The air was cold, but the sky was bright. The people buying the house were a young Navy couple who were moving from San Diego. They walked through the house one last time to make sure everything looked good. I stood outside in the driveway with 3 boxes next to my feet. One box had my uniforms from my service. One had my mom's things, which were very special to me. And one box had a shadow box holding my service medal. As the couple finished looking around, the husband asked if I wanted to keep the flagpole in the front yard. I told him no, it was his now, part of the house. He thanked me for serving my country. I nodded, gave him every key on a shiny new key ring, and signed the last paper that said the house was officially sold. A moving truck never came, because I wasn't taking my furniture with me. I called an estate sale company and asked them to sell everything that was left inside the house. They put price tags on my sofa, the one I bought after my first deployment. They tagged the dining table I fixed with my own hands. They tagged every mug, every pillow, every little thing I once used. Over the weekend they sold it all and mailed me a check for $12,000 after they took their small fee. I signed the check over to the Coast Guard Foundation the very same day. Then I put the 3 boxes in the back of my new Tacoma truck. I shut the tailgate, got inside the truck, and drove away. As I drove, the house grew smaller and smaller in the mirror until the road curved, and I couldn't see it anymore. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel empty. I felt light. It was like I had taken off a heavy backpack I had been carrying for a long, long time. That week, I also signed the papers for my new apartment. It was on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevator, so I had to walk up many stairs. At the same time, a judge signed a civil protection order that I needed to keep me safe. My new apartment had 1 small bedroom, walls made of red brick, and windows facing east, so I could see the sunrise over the lake every morning. I didn't have a garage or a yard anymore. And I liked that. There were no old memories inside those walls, no sadness stuck in the paint or the carpet. It was just me and the blue water outside. The protection order happened because Dad parked outside my old place 2 times in 1 week. Silvara made 3 new phone numbers and kept sending me voice messages saying, "You owe us," over and over. The protection order said Dad had to stay 500 feet away from me for 24 months. If he didn't, it would be a crime. I put the official paper in a black frame and hung it above my desk like it was a certificate I had worked hard to earn. That June, Princess had to go to a 3-day Coast Guard meeting about stopping danger on the water. She stayed at a resort near the lake. Between her meetings, she came to my apartment, dropped her big sea bag on the floor, and claimed the couch like it was hers. In the evenings, we sat on my tiny balcony with our boots on the railing. We watched the last float planes of the day land softly on the shiny lake, and then fly away behind the mountains. One night, Princess walked inside holding a certified envelope between her fingers like it might explode. The hotel worker had signed for it. The return address said it was from the county jail. Dad's handwriting was thin and shaky. I brought the envelope inside, set it on the counter, and started a fire even though the apartment was warm already. The princess poured 2 glasses of whiskey and slid one to me without needing to ask. I cut open the envelope with my dive knife, the same knife I used on rescue missions. Inside were 5 pages written on jail paper. Dad had pressed the pencil so hard that some parts ripped. I read the first page. It said he knew I didn't want anything from him. It said he might go to jail for 18 months for the fraud. It said they took the house, the tools, even Mom's china cabinet. He said he never thought life would end up this way. I read exactly 10 lines. Then I folded the papers, walked to the fire, and dropped them in. They burned fast, curling into black pieces and turning into ash that floated up the chimney. The princess tapped her glass against mine, and we drank quietly. The next morning, I went to the phone store. I watched the worker cancel my old Idaho number forever. I got a brand new number with a 757 area code from faraway Virginia Beach. That way, nobody nearby could ever guess it was me. I deleted all shared cloud albums, every family group chat, and every picture Silvara had ever tagged me in. I blocked every number I remembered, including the jail number Dad called from. Then I changed my emergency contact to Princess. I updated my life insurance too. When the final screen flashed green, I stood in the middle of my apartment and listened. There was nothing. No buzzing phone. No guilt. No invisible rope pulling me back to people who only took from me. Just the soft sound of lake water below, and the calm hum of a new life that belonged only to me. Before Christmas, I pulled a small tree up the stairs on my own. Needles fell everywhere. On the 23rd, I got another small tree from the forest. I cut it myself with a permit and a hand saw. I set it by the sliding door. I put one simple strand of white lights on it. No fancy things. Just lights. The princess flew in that day. She rented a jeep and came with 2 bottles of Woodford. Talon, Soren, and Doc arrived the next morning, still in flight suits. 5 people, 1 couch, 2 air mattresses, a tiny kitchen. Perfect. We cooked like on the cutter. Talon grilled thick steaks on the freezing balcony. Soren made warm food with rice, kimchi, and spam. Doc made hot cocoa so strong we opened the door to cool off. We ate standing with plates on the counter, telling stories about the swimmers we saved and the ones we almost didn't. Nobody talked about last year. They didn't need to. Later, I took out a piece of titanium I shaped into a star. I stood on the coffee table and put it on the tree. The lights made it sparkle like ice. The princess lifted her mug. "To the people who stay when it's hard," she said. We tapped our glasses. No cheering. Just quiet. That night, everyone slept in blankets on the floor. I stood by the window with Coco. Snow fell softly, covering footprints. The lake looked like a black mirror. I thought about the old house. The big windows. The tall Christmas tree I used to decorate with money I worked hard to send home. I thought about all the voices that used to fill my life, and how the quiet now felt better. Blood doesn't make someone loyal. It doesn't make them honest or kind. It only means you share DNA. Everything else, love, safety, truth, is a sorrowness. And for the first time ever, the people asleep on my floor had Serince in me, even when it cost them something. That was family. The star on the tree glowed as the fire turned to ash.